7:04 p.m. Heidrich. Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Obermark.
Aye.
Patke.
Here.
Pettit.
Here.
Scornia.
Here.
Sullentrup. Wessels. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Justice for all.
Will all the council members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the council meeting dated May 20, 2019? Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Obermark.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Scornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup.
Yes.
Wessels.
Yes.
Having read the minutes, are there any questions or comments?
Now I'll make a motion. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Heidrich, seconded by Holtmeyer, to approve the minutes from our last meeting dated May 20th, 2019. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the minutes. Thank you.
Approval and adjustment of agenda, including consent agenda. You have the City Collector's Report Summary for December 2018 and January 2019, the City Investment Report Summary for December 2018 and January 2019, final pay request for Ranieri Construction for the Airport Terminal Reconstruction, final pay request for CTS Comprehensive Energy Conservation, change order and final pay request for SCS Engineers Landfill Permitting, Design, and Construction Management, fireworks display permit request, and your liquor license renewals.
Are there any questions or comments about any of those items?
If not, I'll make a motion. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Heidrich, seconded by Holtmeyer, to approve the items on the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the items. Thank you.
Priority items, mayor's presentations, appointments, and reappointments. We have a proclamation, LGBTQ plus month.
Okay, this evening, Juanita Ziegler is going to be accepting the proclamation. Juanita serves as the president of the East Central College Student Government, correct? Okay, very good. Anyway, so we have a proclamation. Come around this side because I look this way. Sorry. A proclamation for LGBTQ plus month. So we'll get started here. Mayor's Proclamation, City of Washington, Missouri, LGBTQ month. Whereas the Library of Congress and other affiliates, like the Community of Washington, have led observance of LGBTQ plus Pride Month during the month of June to commemorate the Stonewall riots of June 28, 1969. And whereas millions of participants from around the world have traveled to commemorate and honor the LGBTQ plus members of the community and to hold memorials for those who have been largely overlooked, silenced, and assaulted due to an aspect of their identity. And whereas the Community of Washington is home to many LGBTQ plus citizens, included in ranks of esteemed and accomplished students, service providers, local business owners, and community leaders. And whereas through increased visibility, education, and awareness on LGBTQ plus diversity, we can achieve acceptance, inclusion, and celebration of the LGBTQ plus members of our community of Washington, Missouri. Then therefore be it resolved that I, Sandy Lucy, Mayor of the City of Washington, do hereby proclaim the month of June as LGBTQ Pride Month in the City of Washington, Missouri, and ask our fellow citizens to take the time to become more aware of the significant accomplishments of this vital community. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Washington, Missouri, this 3rd day of June, 2019. Signed, Sandy Lucy, Mayor. There you go.
I just want to say thank you to the mayor and thank you to everyone here for giving us this opportunity. It means a lot to us because, like it stated, we do have a lot of students and members of the community in general, local business owners and teachers who are in the LGBTQ community, and we want them to know that we care about them and we support them and appreciate their accomplishments and their contributions to our community. And this is also actually the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, so we should definitely remember our past so we don't have to repeat that in the future. So thank you.
Yep.
Citizens' comments?
Is there anyone here this evening who would like to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda? Okay, thank you.
Report of department heads?
Do we have
I don't think we
anything?
have anything since we already had the meeting.
Ordinances, resolutions. An ordinance granting a special use permit at 1807 East Fifth Street for an indoor shooting range in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
So, you've seen your packet, after the discussion at the last public meeting about the possibility of having a noise issue, having a nuisance of neighboring properties hearing the gunshots at an indoor gun range. We were directed to look into the possibility of being able to regulate that. After I left the meeting the next day when I got back to my office, I was flipping through our zoning code and I realized in 2017 we did amend, as part of our zoning code amendment, we added a performance standard section, which I briefed you on quickly in your packet, that basically states every property in town does have to follow these noise standards. And if there is a complaint or if someone on city staff is inspecting the property and sees an issue or hears an issue, we have the capability to bring out a piece of measurement equipment to make sure it meets those standards. And so it was under our recommendation that we did not need to amend the ordinance to add any regulations, is that the property would already be required to follow those performance standards. So we're following through with a recommendation of no condition there, and then the hours of operation, after speaking with the applicant, it's from 9 a.m. to, or
10 a.m.
10 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Monday through Saturday.
So,
Is the applicant aware of the sound level that's already in the code?
right, well, I brought it up to them. I mean, it's hard to gauge what a decibel level sounds like in real life, but the applicant's confident that they're not going to have an issue themselves.
Okay.
So,
I believe the applicant is here. If we have
Nick is
any,
here.
any other questions of Sal? Okay. Nick, did you have anything to? Okay. All right. Any other questions of council members?
An ordinance granting a special use permit at 1807 East Fifth Street for an indoor shooting range in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Obermark?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Patchke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, J.C. Penney Properties, Inc., and CFT NV Developments, LLC.
Heidrich.
Introduced by Councilmember Heidrich. John?
Yes, as I'm sure you are aware, there's some construction going on next to the McDonald's site that is a Panda Express. As part of that construction, they were required, that subdivision to build the building, they were required to have two options, either extend a sewer lateral, private lateral, or extend private or public main to that location. They've chosen to do the public main option, which would dedicate, you'll see there's actually a utility scar in the JCPenney parking lot, but to extend public main to the location and then dedicate that to us, no different than you would see in a residential subdivision. I can only anticipate the reason for that is any future outlot development on there, but That's the option they chose. So this is the easement that grants us that. There will be an ordinance in the future that would accept that infrastructure as a public utility. So we are actively inspecting it, and I will come to you with that along with a maintenance agreement of 20%, no different than we do with any other residential subdivision.
This is something they already did?
Something they've already
Did
did.
they already, this easement, did they already get the sewer and water line in?
They have the ability to put pipe in the ground, now whether they dedicate that to us or not. But no, I mean, to answer your question, the pipe is in the ground, correct. Now, if they want to dedicate that to the city, well, that's why we're inspecting it in the, for future use. But the easement is not in place. So they did take some risk there, I would say.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't passed it yet.
I was thinking the same thing. It's in the ground already. How come we didn't even see this? And it's now.
Well,
we're-
But we
that was
inspected
up
it.
to them.
It's not our.
I understand. I'm just asking. I didn't.
Yeah.
That was,
Yeah, I mean, their alternative would be is to keep it as a sewer lateral, private sewer lateral, and then their agreement becomes between Panda Express and J.C. Penney, and we're out of it anyway. My feeling is that J.C. Penney most likely didn't want that. They wanted to be public main because you have an ordinance on the books that doesn't allow for private laterals. So they want it to be a public main, so most likely for future development of any outlets. Yep. So they took the risk, but they had an out to still get sewage away from their building. So
Thank you.
it didn't affect us either way.
Any other questions?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, J.C. Penney Properties, Inc., and CFT NV Developments, LLC. Obermark?
aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Hettke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance amending the 2019 budget of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Sullentrup.
Introduced by Councilmember Sullentrup.
This is a requested budget amendment for the landfill situation that I briefed you on earlier this evening. It does anticipate the additional cost of the lime stabilization of that cell. That change order will come at a future council meeting. So this just amends the budget so we can pay, rather than have two different budget amendments, we tried to lump it together as one so we don't have to do a budget amendment at the next one when we have that anticipated change order for construction.
Any questions or comments?
An ordinance amending the 2019 budget of the City of Washington, Missouri. Obermark?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Hettke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance setting the rate of tourism tax to be levied, fixed, imposed, and ordered collected on each sleeping room occupied and rented by transient guests of hotels and motels located in the City of Washington, Missouri.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilmember Patke.
This is an annual ordinance that you have to go ahead and do to set the rate for the tourism tax. And it's proposed to be left at 5%, which is what it's been for several years.
There used to be arguments about this.
Yeah, there were.
Big ones.
The only thing we changed, no, the bed tax, this tax that
Right. This is.
there was a lot of discussion because in the past, it was, I think, maybe at 3%.
3%.
Yeah, marking.
moved to
maybe that
5,
history.
it got
Give me the
real
history.
ugly. Is that, I was wondering, when I looked at the different taxes, was that when that was originally passed, so it was had to be done on a yearly basis?
Yes,
We have to
correct.
approve that yearly then?
Yes.
Doing now. Yep.
Yep.
And it was, remember when it was passed up to 5%.
That's right.
And we started at 2 or 3?
3, I think.
3, and then,
Made
anyway.
the leap.
Yep, so I think Mayor Stratman made that leap for us, so. Any other questions?
An ordinance setting the rate of tourism tax to be levied, fixed, imposed, and ordered collected on each sleeping room occupied and rented by transient guests of hotels and motels located in the City of Washington, Missouri. Obermark?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Echo Camp Electric Company and amend the 2018-2019 budget.
Introduced by Councilmember Hydrich. This is the topic that
Booking
Chief
room
Menifee.
remodel, the contract with Echo Camp Electric, and the budget revision out of the jail tax or jail revenue to take care of any overage.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Echo Camp Electric Company and amend the 2018-2019 budget. Obermark?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Pataki?
Yes.
Heidrich?
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
Mayor's report.
Just a couple of announcements. Wednesday is the Senior Trail Day out at the Swine Pavilion. Thursday evening, perhaps many of you are attending the Chamber Mixer, so don't forget about that. Starts at 6, and that's also at the Swine Pavilion. And then last but not least, go Blues. Anyway,
What
City
is that?
you know,
She's
We're gonna get
sing
out in
Gloria.
time.
You gonna sing Gloria?
Oh, God.
City Administrator's report.
We're just working on budget. So the department heads are, I think most of them have gotten their budgets in. There's a few of us yet that need to turn those into finance, but if you have questions or anything that you can think of for this next upcoming budget year, please get with me or email me, call me, whatever, and we'll try to go ahead and answer those and see what we can do to address it in next year's budget. The other item I would bring to your attention is the mayor and I are going to attend a meeting to discuss funding for the Highway 47 project tomorrow over at Franklin County. There is, right now, they are looking at the possibility of doing, the next step is to go ahead and include, or to come up with the funding for a NEPA study, basically an environmental assessment of the corridor. And they're going to be looking for some types of funding. It was discussed at our transportation meeting last Monday. And I think we've got a few hurdles to go ahead and go over with regards to that, but we'll let you know how the meeting goes tomorrow and come back to you at a later date. That's all I have.
Council comments?
council comments.
In regards to that, Darren, I think the thing I've read into the most is the timeline, that we don't spend money on a study that's not going to be relevant in due time. And I think everyone's aware of that. I'm sure you guys are.
I have asked that question. That was one of the questions that we had with the consultant when John and I went to the last meeting, was, the shelf life of the study. And if it's broken down into phases to where, Union, for example, I think has been at least amongst the group, that portion has been discussed as kind of like a phase one, if you will. Phase two would be back to Washington, coming back north to us, making 4 lanes, and then whatever improvements from Union to St. Clair would be phase 3. That's what's been discussed. That can change. I don't want to hold you to that, but the concern would be is if that's phase 1 over in Union, that could take considerable amount of time to go ahead and build. And so that was the main question that we had was, what's the shelf life of that? And, if we make that investment now, are we going to have to reinvest in that by the time it gets to the portion that would even get close to us, I guess, as far as that goes. So we will keep all of those, I'll keep asking those questions and do some fact-finding and get back to you.
Is the union section realigning 47?
There's, I think, without going in too much into detail, there's 3 options over there that they're pursuing, that they're looking at. But yes, it would be to realign that intersection at 50 and 46.
I just want to remind everybody that we're still paying on the bonds from the highway from Washington all to 44,
Correct.
all the way up to 2030.
And it's backloaded, meaning the biggest
Yes.
payments are
Coming.
And your transportation sales tax also expires in 2030. So you would have to go back to the voters if you wanted to continue that funding. But that funding is pretty much locked up from here until 2030 with our own streets program and paying off those bonds.
Which is big payments.
Yeah, they're big at the end here,
Yes.
big.
Darren, I've been getting a few phone calls, and
What's
I
it
was
mean?
just wondering, if we need to look into this, or maybe if we have something. I've been seeing the people have been bringing it forward to me, and I went around, looked around, and I have been noticing quite a few people buying lots, tearing down that house, or maybe there wasn't a house on there, parking an RV or a camper on it. What
There-
what
What are
do
the
we have in-
regulations? There are some zoning code regulations. You cannot, I mean, I'll give you the ones off the top of my head from history of it. You cannot you cannot turn your front yard, for example, into a complete parking lot and park whatever you want to. Most of the residential zoning districts have requirements on that where you have to have an improved surface. They can park on the sides or they can park in the rear.
Residential.
And it has to, yeah, that's residential. Yes, that's residential zoning.
I'm talking no house. There's not one house on the lot, but they back up their RV or whatever, just dolly it down there and leave it till they use it on the weekend. Or
I
what
guess
have you.
we would have to go ahead, I'd have to go back to the code and do a double. Yeah, that would be my concern. Most of the time, you have to have a primary structure before you can, you
I mean,
know.
because I don't want this to start and, a neighbor,
You can't build an accessory structure without a primary structure, but I don't think we have anything that says you can't buy a lot and pour a pad.
they
Yeah,
don't
I'm
even-
not aware of
they
that.
don't even
But
have a
I don't,
pad.
I think you'd probably control sewer and water hookup first.
Oh, they can't hook it up for sure, but.
Right.
they want
So you can
storage.
just store it there and set it
Yeah,
there,
they don't
but
even
not
have a
hook it.
pad. They're just backing it in, leaving it till they take off and use it who knows when.
I think we have a height and a width. And
Yeah, well, no, that's on.
That's on the
That's on the
street.
street.
And license.
Yeah.
Yes.
For on
Yeah,
street.
but that's on
That's on
the
the
street.
street.
This is, I mean, this.
I don't think if you buy a lot and you pour a pad, I don't know if we have any.
Like, well, let me just say this. Let's say.
Well, I
if
guess it's
you-
not a residential
if you-
use.
If you had and I'm talking hypothetical. We'll get you a solid answer with regards to zoning. But basically, I think if you had a lot next door and you bought that and then you came to Sal and said, well, I want to incorporate this as into one lot, and that's going to be my lot, and it's bigger than the others, I don't know that there would be too many things that you could do other than the size of the RV itself that you could control. Now, you could go back and amend the code and add those restrictions if you wanted to, but we would have to take a look at that.
I just don't know personally if that's something we want to start in our town, you know. If-
I haven't been aware
have-
that it's been, I mean, over the years, we've had a few complaints at certain locations, but I haven't been aware of the fact that it's gotten any worse. So, if it is, we'll
I
take
just
a look
noticed
at
a
it.
couple.
Okay.
driving around, but
A lot of people are aware of it if you go and look at some of the storage sites around town. Those facilities, there's one that's housing RVs and things like that now, because they can't park them on the streets in town.
I would also add that if you had a residential lot that was essentially unimproved, I mean, there's no even permit granted to pour a slab of concrete on it.
Right.
We don't grant a building. Now, you have an ordinance that says you cannot adversely affect stormwater or anything else, but it's written very vague. Since it's a singular lot, there is no permit to pour concrete.
well, so this individual calls me, John, says, hey, there's this RV parked across from this residence. No pad, no nothing, just backed in. And it's been sitting there for like 4 or 5 months now. I said, okay, so I drove by and looked at it, and he said there was a house on there. They bought it, leveled the house, and about ready to tear down or fall down anyway.
Right.
And then they just parked their RV and think, well, we gotta sit there and stare at that now, you know, and they're like, I didn't want to live in a
Definitely
trail. If I wanted to live in a trailer park, I would have lived in a trailer. You know, that's what they're throwing at you. So,
Oh, right, right.
okay, you know.
Well, maybe
Oh,
you
I'm
should
just
give us
letting-
the address,
Yeah,
give
email
us the address,
because that
and
is
Sal can look
definitely
into it.
Yeah.
What you just described is definitely illegal. If you put a pad, I don't know about. we'd
There's
have
no
to-
pad, no nothing.
That's definitely legal. So,
Get the
I can
address.
tell you of other places in town where huge RVs are parked on the property of the owner with a house, and they're legal.
all right. Well, give us a list. I mean, that is what Blake goes around and checks, so.
Okay, is that it? Okay. Anyone else?
Blues just scored in 43 seconds in.
All right. Okay.
Thank you for that, Sam.
I put my agenda away and everything. I guess I ought to look at that.
We got anything else?
I think that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Hydrich, to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I'm going to say aye for Greg because he left.